Where do you start with a story of such shocking incompetence and appalling depravity? Well, I was always taught, the bigger the story, the more simple you must keep it. So let's keep it to numbers, shall we? An elite Metropolitan Police officer waged a campaign and terror and humiliation against women for 20 years, committing 48 rapes to become one of the worst sex offenders in modern history. The police missed 9 opportunities that could have stopped him, some of which were committed while he was still on probation. The final number, 6. It took the Met 6 hours yesterday for a statement to be issued by the Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley. Now, if you've listened to me for any time, you'll know that I know Sir Mark Rowley, and I've interviewed Sir Mark Rowley, and he's a decent bloke. But for the love of God, with a crisis, I would argue this is as big a crisis as I can recall in recent years for the Met. To take 6 hours to get a statement out? You must have known it was coming. You must have done. This is for the comms team, the communications team. You must have done some preparatory work. For 6 hours, there was this yawning silence and this lack of action, nothing like the same level as the lack of action on 9, count them, 9 opportunities they had to nick this man. He was known within the force, and I apologise, there's a very strong word coming up, but I cannot tell this story without telling you his police nickname. It speaks to the man as Dave the Bastard. That's what he was known as in police circles. If that doesn't give senior officers the idea of the sort of man, clearly he's a very physical man, and then time after time after time, you have different partners, not the same sexual partners, different partners come forward and say, he's abused me, he was violent, he assaulted me, or whatever. And on one occasion, you have, the police this is, they have every right to suspend him. They put him on restricted duties. This vile individual carried a gun. What more do the police need to know, the senior officers?
Morning, yeah. I'm a serving officer in the Met, have been for 14 years. I can honestly say that I think there's, for all these, these bad eggs that seem to be in the police force, there are so many of us that are absolutely disgusted and appalled at the fact that somebody like this could be a serving police officer amongst our ranks.
20 years. 20 years.
Sorry?
He was 20 years he was in the ranks, Steve. How did he get away with it for so long?
Well, this is the thing. Obviously, I have my own views in terms of I think there's something very wrong with the vetting and the screening process for these officers. There needs to be a massive change within the Met because I don't understand how these people are able to get away with these disgusting crimes and manage to go under the radar, as it were. There's so many of us that go to work and do a good job, and it is an extremely hard job. And we feel incredibly let down because when these things happen, I can completely understand why the public have the view they do of the police and certainly of the Met. But myself, I'm quite upset about it and disgusted that someone like this can get away with what he has done.
Steve, I know it's not your real name, but you mentioned the vetting. How tough is the vetting? This is someone who was accused on a number of occasions of ABH, and on at least 2 occasions his bosses at the Met knew about it. It doesn't speak to great screening, Steve.
No, it doesn't. And this goes back to what I was saying. I think when there's occasions where someone such as this, and certainly someone who carries a firearm, and these things have been flagged so many times, I can't understand myself how someone like that is able to carry on serving in the police in the position that he was in. It's like I say, I spoke to some of my colleagues yesterday. I spoke to 2 of my supervisors yesterday and said how disgusted and appalled I was hearing it and it really makes you feel sort of a little bit. It makes you feel almost a little bit ashamed to tell people what you do, which is wrong, because I've always been very proud to be a police officer. I've always been very proud to be a police officer in the Met. But things like this really make you feel quite upset and disgusted.
Well, personally, I feel extremely worried, and I did directly after Sarah Everard's murder.
I'm sure.
And I remember thinking at the time, I'm not sure I'm going to allow an individual male police officer to arrest me. Mm-hmm. I don't actually know how the law... I seem to remember from many years ago that if you were asked to pull over as a single person. You could drive to the nearest police station. But I'm not getting in a car with any male police officer, no matter what the consequences are. I'm just not.
I don't blame you, Kate. I don't think you can decline. I don't think you can carry on driving to a police station. But I understand that you don't want to get in a car with a...
No.
What would it take? And I totally understand as a woman, say you were alone, it was at night, you were stopped.
Yeah.
What would it take to restore your confidence then, Kate?
First of all, I don't want it to be an individual male officer. He has to be either with another police officer or even
would you accept two blokes?
A female.
Two blokes?
I would accept two blokes because, well, God forbid that male police officers work in tandem on sexual predatory crimes. But how would we feel confident that wouldn't happen now? Because this is just, it feels like the vile Wayne Couzens was just the tip of an incredibly dreadful iceberg of what's going on. And I feel very unsafe as a single woman when I should just be able to turn around to a police officer and say, can I have your help? When actually I'm going to go in the other direction, quite frankly.
As you're probably aware, these crimes went on for a period of around 21 years, or just over 20 years. Why would they not seek to put him on restricted duties and not immediately move, as you quite rightly say, to suspend him? Why do you imagine they were thinking that?
I think the Metropolitan Police Service is too large. For over a year, 18 months now, post that tragic murder of Sarah Everard, as you just referred to, I've been calling for the Metropolitan Police Service to be broken up. I know Mark, same as you do. I've worked with Mark over the last 6 months since he's been the Commissioner of the Met. He is by far one of the best police officers in this country, the most senior cop in Britain right now. And I know he has integrity, and I know he has determination and focus to clear the Met up. But this is like turning the Titanic. This police force is the size of on average, five other police forces in the UK. It is absolutely enormous. And changing that culture from the top down, I'm not saying it can't be done. My question is, can it be done quick enough? And therefore, is it right and proper that we actually have 3 or 4 police forces that provide those services across London, to give them a proper chance to root out the bad people, to change the culture, to drive up standards, because their police standards department, their PSD department, is failing women. It's failing other victims too.